For society to work, we need all sorts of disciplines and types of skills. What skills do you think will be most important for our kids to learn for the future?
The skills you need for work, for learning, and for citizenship in the 21st century have converged. They are the same skills. You know, lots of people make different lists, but I think it comes down to just a few things. All students are going to need to learn how to think critically. And what that means from my previous research is that students need to know how to ask really good questions. In today's world, being able to ask good questions is much more important than memorizing easy answers. The second skill they need is the ability to collaborate. Increasingly, all work is done collaboratively. The third skill that's important are good communication skills, both oral and written communication, but also the ability to listen. Finally, students need to be creative problem solvers. You know, I found in my research there are two kinds of innovations. There are the innovations that bring new possibilities to life, and that's a matter of a particular time and talent converging, like a Steve Jobs. Then there are the innovations that are the result of creative problem solving. And I'm finding that creative problem solving is increasingly the coin of realm. It's the skill in highest demand. So those are the four skills that are important, but in addition, there are a few dispositions that I think are important as well. Habits of mind, habits of the heart, if you like. Being able to be empathetic, I think, is extremely important in today's world, essential for good teamwork. Persevering, tenacity, self-discipline, of course, but also a strong moral outlook on life, a sense of what's inherently right and wrong. I think these are the qualities and these are the skills that everyone is looking for in the workplace today, and they're the same skills you need for learning and for citizenship. You know, the role of the teacher has to change. It's not just what we teach, it's not just how we teach, it's who we are in the classroom. Traditionally, teachers have worked in the context of knowledge scarcity. But today that's not true. Knowledge is a commodity. It's free. It's on every internet-connected device. You don't need a school or a teacher to acquire knowledge. So what then is a teacher in the 21st century? I would argue a good teacher is a performance coach, coaching students to a higher performance standard. A good teacher understands the world from which students come and the world for which students have to be prepared. And so they're constantly coaching students to better standards. So I would like to see every school or every school system have what I call an innovation fund to which teams of teachers can apply to try new things. Well, what is the research and development budget for our schools? That's a joke because they don't have any. You know, when I did research on young innovators, I discovered that both parents and teachers had explicitly encouraged intrinsic motivation and empowerment through three things: play, passion, and purpose. We are born curious, creative, imaginative. That's the human DNA. The average 4-year-old asks 100 questions a day, and almost every kindergartner thinks of himself or herself as an artist. But then something happens, something we call school. Because you see, by the time children are 10 or 11 or 12, they've stopped asking questions and started worrying about getting the right answers instead for the tests. And almost none of them think of themselves as artists. If we understand that the world cares most about what you can do, not merely what you know, and that we are moving away from the false credentials of seat time served in schools to the genuine competencies demanded in the 21st century, how is an employer or a college going to know what skills students have? Well, the one best way for them to know is to look at student work. So more and more, we're seeing a trend towards e-portfolios or digital portfolios. There's lots of platforms out there. In fact, more and more employers are saying, I want to see samples of your work. I want to see what you can do. Don't just tell me what you've done. Show me. You know, I see parents today as being often quite anxious. They see a world that is much more competitive than the world they grew up in. And so quite naturally, they want to coach their kids to be perfect little children, to get into the perfect little school, and then to get into the perfect little college, and then go to the perfect little job. Well, that doesn't work. There is no competitive advantage in going to prestigious schools anymore the way there once was. As I said, the world cares about what you can do with what you know, not where you went to school. So what can a parent do? I think one of the most important things parents can do is encourage young people to find and pursue real interests, interests that could grow into passions. You know, we talk a lot about grit and about tenacity and perseverance, self-regulation, self-discipline. But how do you learn those things? Not because you have a tiger mom sitting on your shoulder, yelling in your ear, "Now you go do your homework." No, one learns perseverance through pursuing real interests, interests that become passions. So a young person who pursues a real interest, an interest that could become a passion and then a purpose, is creating their own world. It may not be the world their parents would have wanted for them. It may not be a world of fame or fortune, but it will be their world. We need to reimagine education for the innovation era. We need to reimagine education for work, learning, and citizenship, where we have incredible powers and opportunities to create and enormous challenges facing us as a species. And we have to all commit to that. This is not as if it's anyone's fault. This is not the fault of educators or our leaders. All of us need to understand the need for a fundamentally different kind of education. And we're going to have to come together and co-create it together.